Okay, we're back with the last part of this review where I'm going to talk about my experiences in playing with the ROCCAT KOVA gaming mouse on my PC. And I'm also going to talk about the features that it comes bundled in the package. So first of all, I've been mucking around with the settings, using the Swarm program on my PC, changing some of the layouts with the buttons and what they do, and using the Easy Shift Plus feature that is on there, and I'll explain about what that is in a moment. But all in all, after a while of using it, I found it to be a very competent PC mouse as well as a gaming mouse. So not only is it useful for playing your video games, it's actually really good for, I use it for photo editing and video editing as well. You can mix around with all the macros and different buttons on it, which is really helpful. So first of all, just going to pop up on the screen an overview of the features that come standard with the ROCCAT KOVA gaming mouse. And first up, I'm going to talk about the 7000 DPI optic sensor R6. Now, although the name sounds a little bit confusing, a little bit of the understanding of that, the DPI, or the dots per inch, is really talking about the sensitivity of the mouse. So if you remember with your old Windows settings, you can go in and change the sensitivity. And it basically means how fast or how far your mouse is going to move based on how far your mouse cursor is going to move on screen compared to how much you move the mouse. So the higher the DPI, the higher the sensitivity, the faster and the further your mouse will move per inch, or whatever you want to call it, that the actual physical mouse itself moves. So if you move it just a little bit, it's going to fly across the screen if you're up really high. Now the good part about that is sometimes, maybe in a Windows environment you might want the DPI down low. I use it around 1600 DPI. And then if you're playing a competitive shooter, maybe if you're a bit of a pro on Call of Duty or Battlefield or something like that, you may want to turn your DPI up. I don't know if you're going to want it as high as 7000, that's pretty high. But what that means is you'll be able to turn around on the spot with only a slight movement of the mouse, which means you might be able to get the upper hand on your opponent or something like that. But then again, that sort of thing's not very helpful in Windows when you're doing precision movement. So you might want to, on the fly, turn the DPI down, and that can be done using the buttons on the mouse. So there's 12 buttons there that you can program. You can also use like a shift button on there, but once again I'll explain that a little bit more detail in a moment. So you can pick any of the buttons on here to make the DPI go up or go down, or you can just have a toggle, which is what I've got, where you can press it and it'll cycle through. Alright, so that's the impressive features of the DPI that the ROCCAT KOVA does give you control over. Next I'll talk about the ambidextrous shape. Now that's important for me because I am a lefty, I'm left-handed, so you're going to need a mouse, for me or other lefties, you're going to need a mouse that's either a left-handed mouse, which I don't think actually exists. I would dare any company to make a left-handed mouse, or an ambidextrous mouse. Now what makes this ambidextrous is the symmetrical shape. Now what I mean by that is it is straight. Both sides of the mouse are identical. It's not curved to the left, it's not curved to the right, it's not anything like that. It's basically straight and comfortable to use in either your left or your right hand, whichever you prefer. So being a left-handed person, this is the only kind of mouse that I really would even think about purchasing, because a right-handed mouse, they're terrible for left-handed people. So with that, and you can use the settings to change the buttons. If you like to change the buttons around for left and right-handed, that's easy to do using the Swarm software that comes with the program, with the mouse, or you can leave it the way it is. So it's quite an outstanding ambidextrous mouse, so that's quite good. Next up, I am going to go talk about the ROCCAT Swarm program. Now I won't talk about it too much because earlier in this video I showed off the different features of the program, so that's really easy to use. Now I didn't read any instruction manuals, I just played around with it for a little while, and part of my learning process was in that video that I made earlier. So it's real easy to use, it's quite small footprint wise for your computer, it's not going to make your computer lag. It's only 100 megabyte download plus whatever whatever product that you're going to be using. It's future-proof. By that, I mean, once you install it, there'll be updates in the future, which will keep it fresh. And if you buy yourself, say, you know, I've got the ROCCAT KOVA gaming mouse. If I decide to then go get myself a ROCCAT keyboard, I'll just then have to plug it in. It'll prompt me to download the software part for the keyboard, and then away you go. So you won't need different programs for different products as you go. So it's quite a good program, and it's good looking, smooth, fast, and I've had no issues with it, and it just sits in the background of the computer. Next of all, the ROCCAT Easy Shift Plus feature. Now, at first, I didn't really know what it was and how to use it, but after mucking around with it again, once again, intuitive. I didn't read any instructions on how to do it. I just sort of played around with it a bit. And what I worked out is, in the settings, it will default one of the buttons, and I believe it's this one just here, as kind of like a shift button or a function button, like you would have on a notepad or a notebook or a laptop computer. Now, what you can do is, say for example, this is just my regular left click, and this is your right click. If you hold down that button, I've changed it over onto the other side being left-handed, you press in that button and then press any of the other buttons, it gives it a new feature, a new function. So what I've done is, so when I press this middle button here, without any of the buttons pressed, it'll change the DPI setting as I was talking about. So you can change from 500 to 800 to 1600 DPI by pressing the button. However, if I press my function button, then that button, what it'll do is I've set it to be a macro. So when I'm doing photo editing, it'll simulate a crop button, which is 3 button presses. So it'll be Control, Shift, and X. So pressing that one button, or 2 mouse buttons, so the function button and that one button will do 3 keyboard strokes. So it'll be your Control, Shift, and X, and you can do any that you want, which is really handy for using Windows and programs, or if you're playing a game. Sometimes a game might require you to press a few different keys at the same time. You can make it just a couple of button presses on your mouse, which is quite impressive. So that gives you a good 22 functions all in all that you can do by pressing that function key, the Easy Shift Plus feature. So that's pretty cool. All right, next one, 16.8 million multicolor illumination. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have that many different settings to change on the swarm system, but with the illumination, it will breathe in and out of colors if you set it that way, and it will sort of mutate the colors into each other, which means that essentially there is 16.8 million different variations of colors and colors that can be displayed on the mouse in the 2 spots. So there's the illuminated part on the scroll wheel and on the back there, and in the right environments it's got a good glow on it. It looks quite nice. Next, the Talk Effects plus Alien Effects illumination. Now that takes into place those 16.8 million colors. And what that will do, it is quite impressive. Now, I can't really try this out because what it is, it's partnered up with Alienware. And if you're aware of Alienware, they make very high-end gaming laptops and products. And what this will do with the ROCCAT KOVA and a lot of ROCCAT products, because they've got the partnership with Alienware, you can connect them up together. So what it'll mean, I'll just give you an example. So what if I want, when I'm low on health, I want my mouse here to glow red because I'm near death, to give me a visual indication of my character's standing in the game. Or you can have it glow a blue color when you're in full health, or when there's an enemy near, or something like that. It can be integrated with the Alienware software. And as I said, I don't have any Alienware high-end PC or laptop or anything like that, so I can't try it, but I've researched it, and that's sort of what it can do. Also using select ROCCAT keyboards as well, where you've got backlit keys on your keyboard. You can use the Talk Effects integration with Alienware to give you an indication of where enemies might be. So you might be getting hit off screen to the right side of the keyboard maybe might glow up red or yellow or something like that for a warning. So then you know to turn to the right. It's kind of like an on-screen indicator when you're playing a game like Call of Duty. You might have the little red arrows pointing that you're getting hit from that side. That's what you can do with the ROCCAT KOVA and also their select keyboards as well. So it's a pretty neat integration there with a different company, which is really good. Moving on to 12 mouse buttons. So as I said before, there's 12 mouse buttons. I explained which buttons were which because there's only 10 physical and 2 is the scroll wheel up and down. So there's plenty of buttons on there that are easy to get to for left or right-handed. The lefties will probably predominantly use the ones that are on the right side and vice versa for right-handed people, but you can use all of them if you wish. But due to the ambidextrous design, obviously one side's going to be favoured. Next up, 32-bit ARM MCU or ARM MCU plus onboard memory. Now, what does that mean when your mouse has onboard memory? I researched this and I'm quite impressed by it, and it's something that I didn't think about until today, but a lot of mice that aren't specifically made for gaming, you can set up to play with gaming. However, there's no onboard memory, which means that you're relying on a computer program to keep in mind what you want the buttons to do. So the macros, or if you move the buttons around, you want the left to be the right click and vice versa. With onboard memory, the ROCCAT KOVA will store all of your macros and your button configurations and profiles on the mouse itself. Now what that means, that if you're a pro gamer or even just a regular gamer and you want to take your mouse with you to a competition or just a friend's place, you don't have to install the ROCCAT Swarm program on those computers to use the features of the ROCCAT KOVA. All you need to do is plug it in and away you go, because all of your settings are all saved on the onboard memory, which is fantastic if you are moving from place to place. Even if you maybe have a couple of PCs at home in different rooms or for different purposes, you can move it around without worrying about installing the program on every computer that you intend to use it on. So that is a fantastic feature. Now that's pretty much a staple of gaming mice. If it doesn't have that, it's probably an imitation of a gaming mouse and not really up to scratch. Now, last on the list here, I've got the SmartCast top button layout, which has intuitive control via reflexive button layout. Now, when it comes to the button layout, as I've mentioned before, it is very good for an ambidextrous user. If you're going to use it left or right-handed, or like in my family, I'm left-handed and everybody else is right-handed. So it's going to be comfortable and good for use for everybody. As I mentioned though, because of the way that your hand sits on the mouse, these buttons up here are probably going to be a little awkward to get to, so you may favor the ones on the opposite side depending on what hand you use. However, I've not found major issues with it. I've found it quite comfortable to use, and I don't really use all 22 different functions. I use just a handful, and I can program them to be on the right hand side of the mouse, so with my left hand I can use my index finger to reach them quite easily. So it is quite a good layout and a good feature in itself. So all in all, my experiences with the ROCCAT KOVA have been fantastic, but I must mention one downfall, one thing that I think the left-handed people might just... I understand that left-handed mice can't really be a thing because of the total population of the world. Only 10% of us are left-handed, so it's a really small market, so it's very hard to expect a company like ROCCAT or any of the others to make a predominantly or an only left-handed mouse. I understand that, that's fair enough. However, they could have printed the ROCCAT logo the other way, so it's up the right way when you're on the left-hand side of your keyboard. So when it sits, I'll put up a photo now so you can see what I'm talking about. When it sits on the left-hand side of your keyboard, the ROCCAT KOVA logo is upside down, and when it is on the other side, it is up the right way. So it's obvious that the design team are right-handed, and when they tested this out and decided on where they were going to put that logo, they were being all right-handed about it. Or an alternative is if they put the logo on it twice, but different ways. That would have been a neat little touch. However, that's not a bad thing for a mouse that I've given so much praise to. It's comfortable, it works really well. It's smooth, slides across my desk. I've been using it without a mouse pad, which is obviously not necessary, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I've been really impressed with ROCCAT gear lately. It all feels really good quality, and they're not charging $1 million for it, which is a real important thing for myself, because I'm still very short of $1 million. But if I ever get there, I'll let you know. But anyway, I think that'll end up my review for the ROCCAT KOVA gaming mouse. And if you feel like you want to make a comment, please do so below. Check us out. We're Aussie Gamers Express. We're on Facebook, YouTube. We've got a podcast which comes out weekly. You can find that on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, also on iTunes if you've got yourself an iOS device. And we've got a website as well, www.aussiegamersexpress.com. And we'd love to see you pop your head in and say hello. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Luke One. Take it easy.